Hello, everyone, one and all, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Take the Black Live, one of the only shows on the internet where we talk about things like movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, books, dragons, swords, horses, spaceships, lasers, robots, dinosaurs, pirates. We're just anything that catches our fancy. My name is Dan Selke. I'm the editor at winteriscoming.net, where we cover all of those things with the written word. And I'm here with Daniel Roman, who's um dressed up as a what?
Yes. Hello. I'm Daniel Roman. I'm here dressed up as a vault dweller because today Fallout drops on Prime Video. I'm very excited about it, clearly. And how are all of you doing out there? Who will be watching it? Dan, what's new in your world, in the world of dinosaurs, space robots, all those other things you listed that I can't remember?
Well, I got a haircut, and I'm curious about whether did you just have that costume, or how'd you get the costume? Was it like for Halloween, or did you just have it for because you love Fallout so much?
I
What?
just keep these things around, really. No, so I got this for Halloween the year of the
Okay.
pandemic because get it, we were, couldn't go anywhere anyway, so why not wear a vault suit and be quarantined? But it's one of my few Halloween costumes that I keep on retainer because you never know when it's going to be a good time to bust it out. So, yeah, today's a good time. Hey
So
there,
you were
Robert
wearing
Harris.
this in private just for your own little private Halloween party with you and your family for fun during the pandemic.
That is correct, yes. Let the
Okay,
record state.
gotcha. Check in on how sad it was. And not
It
very
was it was not sad. No, my
of
wife
course it
has one
was.
too. She's massively into Fallout, so it was a family Halloween costume. It was good times.
Very nice.
The
That,
pets
that
don't
does sound
have
fun.
them, but some people have them.
Oh,
So
they should. The sad meter would go so much further up if your pets were dressed in little Fallout things too. But anyway,
it's
hello
true.
everybody. Hey Robert, hey Mimi, hey Martha. Good to see everybody. Thanks for welcoming me back, says Martha. I was gone last week. Thanks for holding down the fort, Daniel and Camille. You guys did a
Yes.
great job, of course.
Glad to
And
have you back.
today, I'm happy to be back. And today we're going to talk about um tragedy and triumph, glory
Ooh.
and defeat. A Game of Thrones prequel spin-off show that is moving closer to being on our TV screens, and another Game of Thrones sequel show that is no more. We'll start with the good news
Mm.
first, because I want to leave you all sad at the end of the show. Earlier last week, we got news about casting for a new Game of Thrones prequel show called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight, based
Yeah.
on the Dunk and Egg novellas by George R. R. Martin,
Yes.
kind of about this enormous knight and a diminutive squire who wander around Westeros, just kind of solving problems, meeting people. Oh, yes, please get out the visual aid. Because, okay, just between
A
you and me
knight
and
of
all
the
of you,
Seven Kingdoms.
I actually haven't read the books, but I will before the show comes
Really?
on. Don't worry. I
Oh,
never
they're
got
so
around to it.
good.
I'm busy, Daniel.
They're great. That's
I
fair.
know I
They're
heard they're
short.
wonderful.
They're only like 100 and change pages each. This is all
Oh,
three of them that have been written so far. But yeah, Dunk and Egg have been cast. This is super exciting. Um, did you already say who they are? Did I cut
no.
you off?
No.
Okay.
Everything's above board. I'll just keep going.
Okay. I'll
So
hold
there are
this up
two
while you talk
characters.
about it.
Thank you. I like that. So there's Sir Duncan the Tall, huge 7 foot tall, gargantuan, kind of a thick-headed, a little bit slow-witted, but good-hearted knight. There we go. And his diminutive squire, pause for slight spoilers, but not that much really. Egg, aka Aegon Targaryen the Fifth, Prince Aegon Targaryen the Fifth. What an unlikely pair they make. Um,
Yes, they do.
and we're excited about the show because it's set kind of decades after the end of House of the Dragon, decades before the start of Game of Thrones. So no real overlap of characters. Dragons are all dead, and they're not coming back this time. And the whole show is a bit of a lower stakes affair where it's kind of these two just getting into hijinks and mischief as they wander around the countryside. So it could be a little less sweeping, less epic, more episodic, a little maybe lighter and funnier even. I like that idea. And we finally found out who's going to play him. We got as Sir Duncan the Tall, aka Dunk, an Irishman named Peter Claffey, a former rugby player. He is not 7 foot tall. He's only 6'4". I'll
That's
live
still
with it.
pretty tall.
It's still pretty. He's
Tall
like
enough to
260
pass.
pounds. He's like a big hulking rugby player guy. He'll be fine. And then as Aegon Targaryen the fifth, we got Dexter Sol Ansel, who's this 9-year-old little blonde cherub over here. 9 years old, already has quite a bit of acting experience. He played a young
Yes.
Coriolis Snow in the new
Close enough.
Hunger Games movie.
Coriolanus.
Whatever.
Yeah,
He played young Donald Sutherland, and I think we can all see the family resemblance.
that's right.
In the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. He's been around the block. Like he's one of those child actors who's 9 years old, but he has like a pretty robust IMDb page. Like, okay, this kid's been around. And yeah, they are our Duncan Egg. This show obviously is happening. This isn't one of those ones where it's like kind of in development. This one's happening. Probably going to be
Yes.
around in 2025. And some good comments because here is a question. Robert Harris says, I don't think the casuals will appreciate no dragons. Do you agree with that, Dan? Do you think kind of making a Game of Thrones show with a different tone is a good idea that will expand the audience, or a bad idea that will have fans saying like, "Oi, mate, where the dragons at?"
I think it's a good idea for a few reasons. One is like, remember that in early seasons of Game of Thrones, like the dragons weren't in the first season and people still liked it. They
True.
really didn't become like this huge prominent thing until a little later in the show. So I think we can give the fans a little credit. I do think Dunk and Egg are really good stories. They're kind of self-contained, like almost like there are three of them. Each one is like an individual little mystery type of thing. But they have a lot of like classic Song of Ice and Fire elements
Mhm.
that you don't really get to have when the world is at war. So like there are
True.
tourneys, there are disputes over land and who owns castles. There is another tourney with a mystery knight. The third one is the mystery knight. There's also going to be some interesting like lore that goes on here, and this is the sort of thing I don't know if casuals will really care about or not, casual viewers. But so Duncan Egg takes place after the Blackfire Rebellion, which is a period of Westeros history we haven't really seen much of, but there's a
Hmm.
lot of like interesting stuff to be mined from that. The casuals came in later seasons. Robert Harris, what is this revisionist history? I don't know if I agree with that. But so yeah, I'm not too worried. I think between this and House of the Dragon, we kind of have a bit of everything for everybody. What do you
True.
think, Dan? Will they be turned away by Duncan, his Squire Egg?
I agree with you. I think the danger with spin-offs in general is always overexposure, at least in the shadow of the
Yeah.
Marvel and Star Warsing. And this is the
Yes.
correct amount of exposure. The correct amount is a
Agreed.
big dragon-themed, epic, sweeping, seasons-long story with House of the Dragon taking place like every other year, and then a smaller show that shows different, that feels different. And we will get to D. Abrantes Monahan's comment, don't you worry, about Snow. Anyway, what we want is what I want anyway is the big epic dragon show, sad dragon show 1 year, and then a Dunkin' Egg, kind of a smaller scale thing next year. I think that's about perfect. I think that's where they should stop, and maybe we should just jump right into it because there were other options for Game of Thrones spinoffs that they did not take. We can come back to it. Don't worry. Um,
There were.
D. Apprentice
I agree
Monahan
with
is
you.
ups. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I agree with you that this is the right choice, I think, doing Dunkin' Egg and House of the Dragon. It's what Martin kind of suggested at the beginning, and it took, HBO like 3 years to come around on it. But
Circuitous
Dunkin'
route.
Egg are great stories. Circuitous route. And this will tie, I feel like it will tie more into Game of Thrones than people expect because, like, Egg, if I remember correctly, and shout me out in the comments if I'm wrong, people. I'm pretty sure Egg is Aerys Targaryen's father.
I don't
So
remember
this is like
exactly. He's definitely near
the
it.
gener yeah, this is like the generation before the generation of Robert's rebellion, basically. So there's a character named Bloodraven who does
Yeah, there
appear in
is.
Game of Thrones, who is in the Dunk and Egg novels pretty prominently, or novellas. But yeah, so I'm excited. Let's go back to Diabrantes Monahan's comments, um, which was that they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about Dunk and Egg. They wanted Snow. And note that wanted is in the past tense. Um, so what's the deal here, Dan? Kit Harington said some stuff, and now we know some other stuff, right? About the Snow show.
Yeah, I mean, all we know is what Kit Harington said, who played Jon Snow. By the way, what he said isn't really anything new. He's basically said in so many
Hmm.
words before that it wasn't really going forward. But Kit Harington, who played Jon Snow, basically laid it out during an interview yesterday, talking about his new show, his new movie, Blood for Rust, saying that the Jon Snow sequel show, which they were planning, it was in development. They were thinking of making a TV show where what happened to Jon Snow at the end of the Game of Thrones? Let's find out. He says
Yeah,
currently it's off the table because we all couldn't find the right story to tell that we were all excited about enough. So we decided to lay down tools with it for the time being. There may be a time in the future where we return to it, but at the moment, no, it's firmly on the shelf. Which he's not explicitly saying it's canceled, it's not happening, but it's about as close as any project gets. I don't think there are very few movies and shows that just get canceled and they say it's over forever. They're always we're we're gonna put it back on the shelf. It's gonna go back into development. It needs more time. It's more the same
yeah.
thing. It's probably not gonna happen in the near future or probably ever. And I'm sorry to
Oh, sorry,
D.
Nicole.
Abrantes Monahan. It is too bad. It was always a
Also, happy
bit of
birthday,
a
Nicole.
happy birthday, Nicole. Yes, indeed. Happy 21st. It was always a bit of a worrisome development that they were going to forge out on their own and make something new and not have anything to base it on. No George R. R. Martin book details what happens after the end of the Game of Thrones books he hasn't written yet. So
Yeah,
the question of whether they could, I don't know, make it compelling enough to sit proudly alongside Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon was very open. And I also like that what he's saying, because again, there are networks that you know would greenlight a sequel show, a spin-off,
hmm,
if they had the idea and they had enough money to throw at it. And it's encouraging that he's saying, we talked about it, we couldn't get a good enough idea, and because we weren't sure it could be great, best not doing it. That's good.
yeah.
Like if they weren't convinced that they could do it as well as possible, I'm willing to trust them. And I don't want anything kind of muddying the waters. I want the quality to remain as high as possible. And I think the way to do that is with the shows they're making now, the ones that have strong source material to go off of. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm definitely okay with this too. And so you're right that anything on the shelf, as I think Martin himself said this in a blog post a while back, like when you put things on the shelf, they can come back off the shelf. But
Can.
they can't, yeah, that's the right tone of voice, I feel like. They can maybe. I if I the way I interpreted this was the reason Kit Harington is willing to say this so bluntly now is that enough of a stop has been put on the development that he's not working on it anymore. And he basically said he didn't want to give people the wrong impression by talking about it more when they were still trying to figure out if they could do it. But now they know they can't do it yet. I think this is, I'm going to be honest, and I'm sorry to everyone who really wanted the Jon Snow show. To me, it has always stank of folly, because it's one thing to do a spinoff that is like, a previously unexplored type of period in the lore or something like that. Rings of Power is trying to do that with kind of middling results, but I think there are probably instances where that could work. Like a period of the lore that, like if they did a High Valyria show, I wouldn't arch a brow at it quite the same way as the Snow show because that is taking A Song of Ice and Fire and basically saying, let's do a sequel. And like thinking about other like great fantasy series, like could you imagine if someone said that about The Lord of the Rings? Like, we're gonna do a sequel. What happened to Frodo and the Grey Havens? It'd be like, y'all are crazy. This is not a good idea, and whoever thought of it is insane. It's a little different with Snow because Kit Harington in that role was a big part of why they were talking about
Yeah.
it, and he has such an attachment to it. But it still strikes me as like you're Icarus here flying too close to the sun to even consider doing like a straight up sequel to a saga like this without the author's involvement or anything like that. Um, it was just a minefield in my opinion. So yeah, I think shelving Snow is probably the right choice. And who knows, maybe when Kit Harington's like 50, they can come back and do it and we'll all be real happy about it. But for right now, they're focusing on, I think, the right things. I agree with you.
I want them to wait until nobody wants it. I want to wait until all interest has died down and then give it to us. I actually do. I think that would be funny. Um,
That's
but
going to be the route they go. It'll be like the revival, what's it called? Legacy sequel, 40 years from now when we're all old
that's
and
what I'm talking
gray,
about. Well,
including
maybe
Kit
you.
Harington.
Including
Fair.
Heritage, yes. Um, Going back, but let's see what else the folks are saying. Um, Mimi Faye and Fantasy fans both wanted a Aegon the Conqueror spinoff, which they are working on. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something
Yeah.
like that after House of the Dragon was over. They have
I think that's next
a
most likely.
good amount of runway to work with. I think they're making
Yeah.
decent choices. Um, and a lot will depend on how the second season of House of the Dragon goes over, which premieres in June 16th. Uh,
Yeah.
a franchise lives and dies by the quality of what it puts out and whether people are inspired by that quality to watch in large numbers. And it's a
Sure.
delicate thing. Like putting out too much or too much of a low quality just sort of deflates the enthusiasm. So you need to make good choices, you need
Hmm.
to make smart choices. So if I'm making smart choices, I'm into it. I like it. And also I looked it up. The Mad King is the grandson of Aegon the Fifth,
There we
aka
go.
Egg.
Okay.
Back to that
He
show.
is,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think, relevant. I think he's alive.
Mm,
This is like, is this really spoilers?
nah.
Because we don't see this in the Dunk and Egg novellas. By the time, spoilers, Aegon the Fifth will one day die because
Mm,
he's a historical figure, and that's what happens to all of them. I believe Eris
all
is
does.
alive by the time Egg dies, and Eris inherits some trauma because of the way it goes down, if I remember right. Um,
I mean, there's
but yeah,
no guarantee at all for the Dunk and Egg show of the Hedge Knight, which I still am really hoping they don't call fully a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms the Hedge Knight. Like,
please pare it down.
chop one of
Please,
those things
HBO.
off.
Yeah.
Either the Hedge Knight would be fine, a Knight of the Seven Kingdoms would be fine. Just don't do both. It's so weird. Like, why would you want a super long title, none of which says Game of Thrones, which is kind of like the branding you
Hey,
want to get in there.
they can just plop that on the posters, though. That's fine. Didn't they do that with House of the Dragon? Like, they didn't say Game of Thrones colon House of the Dragon. They just
I
like
did it?
a
Yeah.
snuck it into some marketing in one or two places. I feel like
You
there was
know,
something like that when it was first getting started. Now everyone knows what it is. They don't need to.
I don't recall them doing that. I remember being because it was contrasted with The Lord
Okay.
of the Rings, The Rings of Power, which is another really ungainly title,
Yeah.
but at least it has like the brand you want in there. I don't think they ever stoop that low with House of the Dragon. But I could be misremembering. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, with the Duncan Egg
Yeah,
show,
I could too.
there's no guarantee they'll get even close to like the era when Egg is old enough
Very
to
true.
sire children or grandchildren because the three novellas they have are all
Yes.
when he's pretty young. And I'm not sure what their plan is. Who
Yes.
knows what they plan to do for how much they plan to adapt, how far it's going to go, because they could take it into his later life, but there's no guarantee of that. The source material isn't there. Although
Yeah.
Martin, I'm sure, has plans that's different from having like a written book.
Yeah. I imagine that will obviously depend on how well this show does. Because if they do it like miniseries style, they've got 3 years of runway, and then they're into uncharted territory, not unlike Game of Thrones.
Uncharted.
Martin has said he wants to write
Oh
something like
yeah.
8 or 10 or 12 more Duncan Egg stories, which is just like I love you, George. I would be shocked if we actually got anywhere close to that number of Duncan Egg stories. But when they first announced this, my initial thought was this would be a really smart way to do more Duncan Egg stories.
Sure,
That
that's
while George
true.
R. R. Martin still needs to write The Winds of Winter, I don't know. And then like the next day he was like, I'm gonna write him still. So we'll see what happens on that. But I feel like this is an easier beast to tackle if they have to go past what is already written
True. There's already
compared to
some
Game of
stuff.
Thrones because it's really about these two characters on discrete adventures. So yeah, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens. Probably coming out next year. Supposed to start filming in June, I think.
All about June. Yeah, and
All about
congrats to the
June.
two actors. And whoever was saying that the one
Yes.
kid, Dexter Ansel, is young, like, yeah, he's
Saul
like
Ansel.
a kid, Saul Ansel. He is he's 9 years old and he seems 9 years old.
Mhm.
Like the videos of him finding out he's won or gotten the role
Very
are like
cute.
very innocent kid energy, almost to the point where I'm nervous. Because, like, I don't know, like child actors, man, like being on set all that time. I hope he's okay. Although he does have to slash get to shave his head because Egg is bald, that's why
Yes.
it's called Egg. It will save him a lot of wig time. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think George R. R. Martin said he's heard Dexter Saul Ansel is really excited to shave his head. So
Shave that
yeah,
head.
good for
We
him.
all are.
Committing to the part. But the age works, I think,
It does.
because I mean that's kind of how old-ish Egg is around when these novellas start. So that I think that's great. It's kind of funny that he has probably more acting experience or a comparable amount to
Peter
Peter Claffey, who is
Claffey.
like a former rugby player turned actor. That strikes me as a little ironic, just because that's also kind of the nature of Duncan Egg's relationship. Like Dunk gets pulled
Mhm.
into all the politics, and Egg, even though he's a little kid, he knows more about them because he's a Targaryen. He does look like he could play a royal Targaryen as a kid. Totally agree with that, fantasy fan. But yeah, so exciting times. Duncan Egg is moving forward. House of the Dragon still coming. Sorry, Jon Snow fans. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with these, Dan?
I don't think so. I think I pretty much got it all. Yeah, looking forward to it. Should be an interesting couple of years.
Yes.
Daniel, unless you have anything else to say, or of course any of you have comments, we'd be happy to engage and read them and talk to you about it.
Yes.
Daniel, why don't we move on to the reason you're wearing your little costume there? Um,
I
what
just
other
wear this.
show
This
comes
is
out
just,
today?
it's a Wednesday.
Mhm.
No. So today, Fallout drops all 8 episodes on Amazon. Sorry, Prime Video, the streaming video service of Amazon. So that is a new TV show. It's a sci-fi show from Jonathan Nolan, who made Westworld with his wife slash creative partner Lisa Joy. And it's based on a long-running video game series that was originally started by I want to say Obsidian back in the 90s, and now it's Bethesda Softworks as of Fallout 3. And yeah, it's a quirky, weird sci-fi, kind of in the vein of like a Mad Max type story, except way, way funnier. And it comes out today, and I'm really excited. Thus, I'm wearing this blue outfit, which is what the people who are called vault dwellers in this world wear, because they live in underground vaults that survived a nuclear apocalypse. And then one of them, in this case, Lucy, who's played by Yellow Jacket star Ella Purnell, has to go to the surface on a dangerous mission and finds that it is a very dangerous, ridiculous place and not at all what she imagined it would be like. So, yeah, I have seen all episodes of Fallout, so we can talk about it a little bit, keeping things spoiler free, because obviously it's not out for another 5.5 hours yet. before it drops, but
We
it's
got to
coming.
jump. Well, Daniel, I mean,
So, do you have
the
any
only question
questions
I
about this?
yes, the only question I have, the only one worth asking about a new show is it good? Should people watch this? And why or why
Yeah,
not?
I totally watch it. I think there are almost kind of two sides to this, right? Because it is an adaptation, similar to The Last of Us, similar to so many things we talk about here. But it's based on a video game, and obviously we've had no shortage of spotty video game adaptations over the years.
Sure,
That
for
combined
decades.
with the fact that, you know, Jonathan Nolan is great, but his one of his last big sci-fi shows was Westworld, which kind of sunk off there after season one. A lot of people were really dissatisfied with it. Um, so is Fallout any good? I think the answer is yes. It is a gleeful, delightfully weird and demented time. It's a show that makes you feel like you're being trolled at any given moment in the best way possible. Like it's way funnier than I expected. Um,
Hmm.
it kind of is this post-apocalypse that is like 1940s America, like nostalgia is kind of the aesthetic of it. So it's
Hmm.
got this very, very, very unique tone that all of the games have. And if you don't know the games, that's totally fine. Like Fallout is
Good.
kind of the games are great, Robert Harris. They're definitely worth checking out, but each game is designed as its own thing. You don't need to know any of them to play any specific one. They're discrete adventures, and that's the same with the show. The show is not adapting any one game. It's set after Fallout 4,
Uh-huh.
and it's just its own thing. And I think they totally, totally nailed it. They got that the all important, quirky, weird tone down perfectly. Except it's even funnier than I thought it would be. It's the kind of show that, like, just as things start feeling like they'll get heavy, it will throw you some ridiculous curveball that just makes it so fun that you're laughing. Um, so yeah, I think Fallout is great. I give it like an easy 8 to 9 out of 10.
Right on.
Um, you know, it also has a lot of practical effects, which is just something I'm coming to appreciate more
Cool.
and more the more of these genre shows we see. Like it definitely shows when the team behind it, one really loves the thing they're making,
Hmm.
which like super clear here. They really love these video games. They know them really well. There are Easter eggs everywhere,
Perky.
to like a ridiculous amount, like just in terms of like the set design, the references, everything you can possibly think of, the weapons. Um, but yeah, they also built a lot of stuff. There are tons of practical sets. There are these power armor suits, which are used by this militant organization called the Brotherhood of Steel, which is basically like a pseudo military organization mixed with a little religion. They go around stopping people from getting technology uh, to prevent another nuclear war,
Oh, right,
which
right, right.
they use technology to do, and it's all very hypocritical, and that's kind of the point. Um, so yeah, I really loved it. Julie,
Cool.
you should give it a go. If you don't know anything about the game, that's totally fine. You will get a feeling for what type of show it is right from the first episode, which it is the type of show that will have a bunch of people get gruesomely murdered while playing 1940s like pop tunes in the background, and someone is also eating a piece of cake while the murder is happening. It's super ridiculous and
So
fun.
some black humor, some wink wink nudge nudge
Absolute
irony humor.
absolute gallows humor all the way down. Yes, this is a hard R-rated show. Like, be
Yeah.
okay with making death very funny. It's that type of show.
Sure.
And Fantasy Fan, there's a spoiler-free review that's saying a lot of the same things I'm saying now, but already up on winterscoming.net, but we'll be doing more
Sweet.
coverage for it too. Cause yeah, I
Awesome.
enjoyed this one a lot. I like, and I was nervous because, video game adaptations, they can go so awry. Um, but it's just very clear that it feels like a Fallout video game, even though it's a
Nice.
TV show. But it's also a good TV show. It's a jack of all trades.
It's got everything going for it. I have two quick questions.
It does.
A, do you
Yes.
know if Jonathan Nolan's wife, Lisa Joy, is indeed involved in this show, because I feel like I heard she was at the start, and then they stopped using her name. The two of them made Westworld
Hmm.
together, which, went from like the next great thing in TV to an also ran nobody watching convoluted sci-fi show. Is she involved? And also, B, can you say, I don't know if you can, with a spoiler embargo, whether this 8 episode first season ends in a way that sets up more, or is this like a one and done thing?
Yeah, I can address both of those, I think.
I'm glad.
So for Lisa Nolan, and I could be wrong about this because I noticed that too, that it was kind of at first they said both of their names because they make everything they do together pretty much.
Yeah,
Like they own, I think it's
Nolan Joy.
Kilter Films is their film company. Like they do these things together. But they have used her name a lot less in the marketing. And I believe that is because she's an executive producer on this show.
Hmm.
Jonathan Nolan is like the creator of the show. He directed the first 3 episodes. He was very hands-on involved in the whole thing. I don't know how involved Lisa Joy was compared to Nolan, and I think that's kind of why he's being centered more. Like he is the showrunner of the
Okay,
series, I believe. So it is nuts to say she's not involved, but it seems like it is. Yeah, she's not even in interviews, Leo. You're right. So I think she's just executive producing, like as someone who runs their film company that's involved in this.
sure.
Um, but maybe isn't, a creative force behind it the way she was with Westworld, where like that's a thing they were both writing on, they were both making together,
Right,
like all the way through. This this really does seem like it was a Jonathan Nolan like passion
right.
project. Like there was an interview a while back where he said he he's gotten to play in already established worlds that he loves twice now, and it's a huge privilege. And he said first was Batman, with the Batman movies he made with his brother Christopher Nolan, and now there's
Right.
this. And that really comes through. Like he talks about how he almost lost a year of his life just playing Fallout 3 on binge, and it almost wrecked his career because he was just playing video games all the time.
Okay.
So that type of stuff, like that really, really comes through. It's not a, you know, I, and I hate to throw shade. It's not a situation like The Witcher, where you're going to look at it and be like, how do they feel about the source material? Do they really like it? Like,
Sure.
the Fallout is not that at all. It's very, very obvious that they get it and they love it. Um, as far as if it is meant to be a one-off. Um, yes, Leo, he did create the peripheral. They Lisa Joy as well. And that was renewed and then unrenewed, which I'm still very sad about. Because it was a good show. But yeah, so in terms of whether Fallout is a one and done thing or it leaves itself open for future seasons, very much the latter. Um, this is not it does not watch like a limited series that could continue if it gets interest. Like this is the
Hmm.
start of a TV show. It leaves
Gotcha.
off in such a way where it's like this is the start of a TV show. Here's the end of a big chapter, but obviously we want to make more of this thing. I really hope they get to, and it seems like Amazon kind of has its eye on letting them make more, although we'll see. A lot will depend on this week, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But one of our colleagues, Maddie, shared a tweet a while back that talked about how apparently Amazon has already secured some tax
Oh.
credits for filming season 2 in
Hmm.
California. Yeah, that's Fantasy Fan. That's exactly what I'm talking about, like the Grace Randolph stuff. We're
Oh,
pretty
Grace
sure we're going to get a
Randolph.
season 2, but so far no official announcements have been made, but it's very obvious that they're hoping for one, in my
Sure.
opinion, from the first season.
I mean,
So
if you're
if you're thinking about it,
partnering,
give it a chance and help them get that boost.
I mean, yeah, if you
Yeah.
partner with a big property and you're working with a big company like Bethesda, I think they're owned by somebody now, then yeah, there's more pressure to. It's weird. The more you spend and the more resources you put into a show, kind of the more pressure there is to keep going. regardless of whether it actually catches on. Whereas something like the Peripheral,
Yeah.
where I mean they spent money on it and everything, but because it was never a known quantity, you can kind of more easily shuck it to the side. And they did renew it and then say no. So we shouldn't
Yeah.
guarantee we're in a second season. But I mean, I'm not surprised. Like most big shows like this are in it for the long haul. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear
Yeah.
that. And maybe maybe I'll check it out, Daniel. It's not on my
Yeah.
bingo card right now, but it could be. Who knows? That Dune miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel is like 4 hours long. So give me a second.
That's true. That's like half a season almost of Fallout. This has
Mhm.
long episodes. Some of the premiere is around 70 minutes. So they're definitely up there. There are some that are less, but you'll know within an episode or two if you're gonna like it.
Sure.
Because so much of it is just the tone. If the tone resonates with you and makes you laugh, you'll have a pretty good idea of whether you want to stick with it or not.
Very
Um,
nice.
yeah, and I do think you're right too, talking about the kind of company pressures of making something like this versus The Peripheral, which is based on a William Gibson novel, and not even William Gibson's most famous novel to boot.
Right.
William Gibson, he's a very prolific sci-fi writer, kind of one of the progenitors of like the cyberpunk era of sci-fi. Um, it's sad to me. I agree with Robert Harris, who said he misses it. I miss it too. It's sad that got canceled. But here you have Amazon making a show with Bethesda, which is owned by Microsoft now. That was what you were
Yes.
thinking of. And it's very obvious that Bethesda is very involved in this show. Um, just in terms of design elements, in terms of things they probably needed to license from the games, or there are lots of soundtrack things that are from the games or songs which also featured in the games. So I imagine it would be a much thornier thing for Amazon to just chuck this one than, the Peripheral, which didn't have Bill Gates's company behind it indirectly.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say if there's a bit of a budget shortfall, I'm sure Bill can go between the couch cushions and pull out something to help.
look, Bill, we just need a few mil more to make Fallout Season 2. Maybe you can, I don't know, recycle your bottles and cans and hook us up.
Exactly. So yeah, cool. It sounds good. I'm glad that it's good. I still think it's a little odd they're putting all the episodes out there at once.
Yeah.
I think it's weird the services that have the option to do it one way or another. There's not really consistency, but it's all good, and I'm glad you like it, and I hope it goes over well. And we'll see in about T minus 4 hours.
Yeah, I was nervous about that too. Like, does that mean they're not expecting much?
Hmm.
Are they just kind of shoveling it out there and jettisoning it? Because sometimes it's like you could have stretched this hype for like months. Like, FX is doing weekly
We've been here
releases for
before, yeah.
Shogun. And yeah, now after Fallout's done, I'm going to go back and talk about Shogun because that's still going. But
Yeah.
the one thing I will say is this does lend itself very, very well to a binge watch.
Hmm.
So not to say Amazon is prioritizing the artistic merit of binge watching versus not binge watching, but if you're gonna binge watch a show, this is a good one for it. So maybe there's something to it, but I don't know.
Very cool. By the way, hello, Volodymyr. Good to see you. And apparently, Bububuo says YouTube has better quality than Facebook. We are available to all people across the internet, but
My
whether you
surprise
watch it on
face.
YouTube, whether you watch it on Facebook, so long as you watch it and maybe even like and subscribe and leave a comment. But you guys are already on top of that. Daniel, everyone out there, what else are you watching or reading these days? And Fantasy Fan, yes, we have. We'll talk about it briefly in a bit. But first, Daniel, you watch anything outside of mainlining the Fallout show?
I did mainline the Fallout show over the past few days. So aside
Hmm.
from that, Shogun is still running. It just had its eighth episode, which was another excellent one. That's a show that's like it's incapable of being bad.
Hmm.
It's got two episodes left, and it's just been a stellar run. Um, Aside from that, what else? I guess that's pretty much it at the moment
Yeah, it's been light.
since last week. It's been light since last week. What about you, Dan? What are you watching?
Same. I mainlined three body problem a couple of weeks ago. I'm still kind of recovering from that, so I don't know how
Yeah,
you feel.
good,
Um,
good stuff.
I the mainly what I've been doing is I'm finally watching Shogun again, which I'm loving. So I'm glad I have time to do that again. I finished Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's over now, forever and ever. God bless Larry David. They did a Seinfeld kind of thing. We won't go into it. I also, for some reason, we watched Dune 2 again over the weekend, and then I decided to watch the David Lynch version and the
Righteous.
Sci-Fi Channel original version for some reason, and kind of having some fun comparing and contrasting. Whew. And that's what I'm on now. I'm looking forward to getting more into Shogun. I want to catch up, and I will by the
Yes.
time the finale ends. So looking forward to that most of all.
I, I rewatched the David Lynch Dune recently too, and I was kind of surprised. Like, I did not think it was as awful as everyone makes it sound. Like, I was
I don't think it's
surprised by,
awful, just more
yeah,
compromised.
more comp. Okay, that's fair. I was surprised at how many scenes are like line for line the same. Like the
Yeah.
Villeneuve movies and David Lynch, they obviously took
Villeneuve.
them from the book. Villeneuve. I'm sorry. Uh,
Denis
I was
Villeneuve.
surprised by that though, because the way everyone talks about Dune 1984, you just expect it to be an absolute trash fire. And like it's weird, it's
No.
different. It does some things that I don't agree with for sure, but it also like it's telling the story of Dune for the most part.
Yeah.
Just maybe not quite as effectively as these new movies.
It's
Uh
because you have to fit the entire story into like I can't believe talking about Dune 1994.
yeah,
Into
we are.
like 2+ hours. You like a lot of characters just are just there to be there and don't really get much
Yeah,
depth at all. Like you got like Patrick Stewart there as Gurney Halleck. Patrick Stewart being a very commanding actor,
with his pug.
but with his pug and his booming voice. And he really doesn't get to make much of an
Yes.
impression at all, beyond the fact that he's doing Patrick Stewart and you can't help but notice him. There's a lot of that. It's I don't hate it. I think it's really
Yeah.
evocatively shot, but yeah, it's compromised by needing to like blast through a bunch of stuff real fast.
Yeah, totally.
And
Um,
Booba wants to know, is that the Pip Boy on Daniel's hand? I wanted to know what that thing in your hand
it is
was.
indeed a Pip Boy. It's upside down because it's supposed to be looked at this way. But yes, it is.
There you go. It's a Pip
Um,
Boy.
that's right. It's the personal computers that people in the vaults have. Um, and Bubo Bubo also just read In the Lost Lands by George R. R. Martin, which, yes, that is
Oh,
being made
fun.
into a movie with Mila Jovovich. I don't, what is that? Gray Alice, I think is the name of her
Yeah.
character. Um, Bubo Bubo, what'd you read that in? Was that in Dreams Songs? Because that's a harder to find short story. I'm curious, but very, very cool. Julie says watched White Lies, which I quite enjoyed. So yeah, lots of good stuff to be watching and reading and such this week.
And she did not like the new Netflix show Ripley based on the talented Mr. Ripley, which is I didn't know they made a new version of that. I'm sorry I didn't like the
Me
ending to
neither
it.
until I saw the ad.
I saw the Matt Damon movie like years and years ago. I thought it was pretty good, but I forget how it is. So maybe I'll go revisit it.
Yeah.
All right. Daniel, is there anybody else out there watching anything? Please let us know. We'd love to talk about it. And while we wait for
Yes.
that, why don't we move on to the final part of our episode, the hallowed tradition of the Wick News Lightning Round, where we take 20 seconds apiece, go over a bunch of news stories we couldn't get to in the main body of the show because we're so busy, and just give our brief opinions, thoughts, concerns, whatever we have on them. And as Leo says, are we watching X-Men 97? Really fast. Are you watching that? Because I am not.
I haven't. I've been kind of hesitant, honestly. This is nostalgia driven things are such a it's such an interesting thing to me. Like sometimes I want it directly in my bloodstream. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know if I need that. And X-Men
Sure.
97 has kind of been in that camp for me where I'm like, I loved the X-Men cartoons, but I'm not really chomping at the bit to go watch a revival of a cartoon that I loved as a 12-year-olds, you
Hmm.
know, like even though it's amazing and from everything I've heard, the revival is really good. Camilla
People seem to
talked
like it a lot.
about it a little bit last week. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. But no, I haven't seen it yet. Maybe at some point when I'm really itching for that theme song, I'll watch it. You haven't seen it either,
Yeah.
right?
No, I wasn't really uh, a giant fan of the original, even though I'm old enough to be. I agree with you about the nostalgia stuff. I watched the trailer for like the new not Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice movie,
Yep.
which it was so focused on, like the Deo Deo, like the song from the original and all the imagery. It might be good, but like, what is new here? Like, is there a good reason for this to be? And maybe there is, but the trailer was very heavy nostalgia baited,
But
and
we
I
don't know what
felt
it
a
is.
little baited. Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah, I said we don't know what that reason is yet. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And it's interesting because like I finished Final
Sorry.
Fantasy VII Rebirth recently, and
Oh yeah.
that falls into this camp too, where it's a remake of a decades old thing, but that never really gave me those vibes of like you're
Hmm.
just trying to bait me to like that. Like it's clear they had like there was a reason they made these remakes, which is they had things they wanted to do that they couldn't really do with the technology at the time they made the original game.
Sure.
Fine. But yeah, for whatever reason, that one hasn't rubbed me the wrong way like some of these. The Beetlejuice one, there is a new Ghostbusters that came out last
There
month. I
is.
have not watched it.
All right.
Um, with so many different things that you could be watching, it's hard for me to want to just fall back on those sorts of things unless
Yeah, I
they're
guess.
really
Yeah, yeah.
good or really hitting the spot, like Nicole says she's watching Shogun,
I know that.
Manhunt, Marion George, which I've heard is good and demented and good. Renegade Nell, which I'm not familiar with, but that goes to show there's so many shows we don't even know them all. It's an embarrassment of riches right now. So yeah.
Yeah, Burpee's up and new. Um, okay, let's get back to the lightning round. I fully detoured us. I'm so sorry. Um, and let's bring it up. As usual, I have not put these in any sort of order, so we're gonna go through them and hope for the best.
All right.
I'll ask you first. Why not? Daniel,
Sure.
Avatar, The
Yes.
Last Airbender showrunner, the showrunner of the new Avatar, The Last Airbender remake, Albert Kim, unexpectedly left the show. He ran it for the first season. It was successful enough to get renewed, but he's going to be replaced next season by Christine Boylan and Jabber Rossini, both of whom he hired. Scandal,
Yes.
normal. What do you think?
I think this is fairly normal. When I first saw this, I went, "Oh no." And then I kind of read what they were saying about it, and I
Hmm.
believe that Christine Boylan and Jabbar Raisani worked on season one.
They did, yeah.
And Albert Kim kind of was like, doing a show like this takes years and years to do,
Yeah.
and he just wasn't really intending to run with it all the way to the end. So he stepped
Yeah,
down.
fair enough.
Hopefully, it ends up being okay. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Um, this is an interesting one. I want to hear your thoughts on this. So Craig Gillespie, who directed I, Tanya, Pam and Tommy,
Mm.
Cruella, is apparently in talks to direct Millie Alcock in DC's new Supergirl movie.
Yes, Millie Alcock, of course. Rhaenyra Targaryen has been the young Rhaenyra Targaryen. Gonna play Supergirl. Cool choice, because like I loved Tanya. He's more of like an actor's director, not really a big special effects
Mm,
director, which is kind of a cool choice for like a big superhero movie. What you assume a big superhero movie? I like it. I think it's a fun choice, and I'm happy to see Millie Alcock getting more roles, me getting her profile raised. Cool, says
yeah,
I. All right, Daniel, a bit of a
that could be a
sad
cool.
one.
That could be a cool pairing. Yeah.
Yeah. A bit of a sad one. Adrian Schiller, the actor who played Ethelhelm on The Last Kingdom and has done many other things besides, has passed away at the age of 60.
Yes. Yeah, this was sad news this week that Adrian Schiller had passed. He was Ethelhelm, and I think the last two seasons of The Last
That's
Kingdom.
three,
He
I
was
think.
fantastic. Last three, he was fantastic. He did a great job on the show. And I don't think we know how he died yet, just that it was
Mhm.
sudden and unexpected. So this was, it could have been a natural causes thing, but an unexpected natural causes thing. We're
Sure.
waiting to hear more. But it was emphasized in the original release for this that it was not like a known disease or anything like that. It was sudden. So best wishes to his loved ones.
Absolutely.
All right. On this isn't really, I mean, I get this is better than the news we just talked about, but it's still dour news. Um,
Whoa.
NBC canceled its Quantum Leap reboot starring Raymond Lee. Dan, are you
Yeah.
heartbroken?
So well, no, I knew the show was on. I hadn't watched it. It's hard to like be like a sci-fi fantasy genre show on network TV competing with all these big cable streaming shows.
Yep.
It got decent press. The original Quantum Leap is a classic. Um, Raymond Lee, the main actor, seemed okay with it. Like he's gonna forge on. Sorry for the fans,
Yeah.
but it had two decent episodic seasons, so hope they enjoyed that while it lasted. Daniel, hey, here's a fun one. Look, 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 look. It's a picture of Logan Lerman and Percy Scobell, who played the character Percy Jackson in the Percy Jackson movies and the new TV show, respectively. It's a photo of the two of them together. Hooray!
Yes. Yes, that is very nice to see. That's Walker Scobell and
Oh, what did I say?
Logan Lerman. Per they're all Percys. We're all Percys here. Yeah, it's fun to see them together. It seems like, Logan Lerman hasn't had any bad blood really with the whole Percy Jackson doing a new show. So it's wonderful to see. I enjoyed Percy Jackson. I'll take these good vibes. I hope they find a way to work Logan Lerman in a later season as something. Um,
I'm sure
but
they will.
yeah. Uh, oh, Dan. Wait. Let's switch this one because I haven't
Good,
seen
good instincts.
this trailer. Whoo! Dodge the bullet there. So we're not gonna watch it because we don't have that much time, and neither do
We're
you.
busy people.
But Dan, we are, and so are all of you watching. What did you think of the new trailer for Joker Folia 2? That I'm
Joker,
probably saying
Denis
wrong.
Villeneuve. I did watch it. I thought it looked really good. Look, the first Joker movie stirred up some controversy for reasons we don't have time to go through in 20 seconds. But I did find the final product like compelling if some has some weird stuff. The trailer looked good. I thought Lady Gaga looked great. I thought they have like a really kind of demented perspective on the whole thing. I'll probably watch it. I thought it looked interesting. So yeah, I'm into it.
Okay,
Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga,
cool.
not quite musical, strange love story, weird visuals, no special effects, political upheaval. I don't know. Things are
That
all okay.
sounds good. That doesn't sound
Daniel,
bad. Yes.
maybe we should talk more about it
Ask me
another
about
time.
Cassandra Clare.
Okay. Daniel, author Cassandra Clare has announced the final trilogy in her Shadowhunters series, which spans 23 books across 4 series. The final trilogy is called The Wicked Powers and will be out in 2026. What do you, literary man, think of this?
I think, Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunters series, it's kind of I think it's shelved in YA, but it's like a paranormal
Yeah,
romance about this woman who falls in with a group of basically like demon hunters.
sure. As
It's
you do.
been going forever, so I am happy for her that she's ready to stick the landing on it. And yeah, I think the first book is out in 2026. I don't know about all three. Um,
Yeah.
it's good news. Excited for the fans of that series. Hope you like the end. And the other things that are ending or that have ended, such as our 2024 Fandom Madness tournament. If you missed that, we paired off 64 people from fantasy and sci fi, and they duked it out in the votes. Aang was the winner of our 2024 Fandom Madness tournament. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Each year we have this giant poll where we just put tons of characters and just in polls, bracketed polls. 64 start, only one ends, and Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender won our tournament this year with like tens of thousands of votes cast. So I was very happy to see the participation. Happens on Twitter or
He
X.
is the
Thanks for
Avatar.
voting if you voted. And we love doing this. This is always a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun to see people kind of pitch in and be passionate. So that was fun. And congrats, Aang, and to everyone who voted for him. And congrats to all the people who voted. You're all winners. As are all of you
Yes.
out there for various reasons, including having the excellent taste to watch us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. CST here on the Winners Coming Facebook or YouTube page. We're here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. CST, as well as archived on YouTube on the Winners Coming YouTube channel. They live on Facebook forever. Well, probably. We're also available in podcast form, wherever you download them, be it iTunes, be it YouTube Music, wherever. Thanks for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and I will agree with Robert Harris that the bit where Lady Gaga put the smile on the glass is pretty cool in the trailer. From
Pure
me,
cinema.
from Daniel, and from Daniel's costume, adieu. See you next time. Denis Villeneuve.
Thank you.